The Gulf of Tonkin incident. Hello, folks. Everything new under the sun. This is going to be relevant because this is a false flag type incident that has occurred in the past. And as you know, to the Jewish folk, a pattern equals prophecy. So if you see something happening in the past, then it's likely to happen in the future, especially if it's happened multiple times in the past. And we know there have been multiple false flags. So, what is the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Well, it relates to the Vietnam War. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. It was an international confrontation that led the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. Does that sound like something that's happening today, where maybe the U.S. is not directly involved, but may cause them to engage more directly in a particular dispute? It goes on. It consisted of a confrontation on August 2nd, 1964, when United States forces were carrying out covert operations close to North Vietnamese territorial waters, and North Vietnamese forces responded. The United States government falsely claimed that a second incident occurred on August 4th, 1964, between North Vietnamese and United States ships in the waters of the Gulf of Tonkin. Originally, U.S. military claims blamed North Vietnam for the confrontation and the ostensible, but in fact imaginary, incident on August 4th. Later, investigation revealed that the second attack never happened. The official American claim is that it was based mostly on erroneously interpreted communications. You would call that misinformation or disinformation these days, I guess. The National Security Agency, the NSA, a subsidiary of the U.S. Defense Department, deliberately skewed intelligence to create the impression that an attack had been carried out. So the NSA, an intelligence agency of the U.S. Defense Department, deliberately skewed intelligence to create the impression that an attack had been carried out. Does that sound anything like what has happened over the last number of years in terms of skewing intelligence to create an impression, to push a narrative? Well, that is exactly what's happening here. This is your hedge. Ukraine preparing for nuclear explosion as Russia reduces Zaporozhye plant presence. Zelensky has once again been warning the public that the West and the West that Russia is planning to stage some kind of disastrous nuclear fallout event on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. The claims from top Ukrainian officials have been persisting for weeks, but have grown louder in the last several days as Americans are busy with July 4th festivities. Now, July 4th is all but come and gone. Some were suspecting maybe a surprise to happen. I don't know. Maybe that could happen in the hangover of July 4th, going into tomorrow. That could very well be true. It says Russia, this is a serious threat because Russia is technically ready to provoke a local explosion at the station, which could lead to radiation release, Zelensky claimed. The Guardian, the newspaper, on Saturday cited Ukrainian intelligence arm, the GUR, to say that several representatives of Russia's state nuclear energy agency, Rosatom, or Rosatom, have already left, and that further Ukrainian employees who stayed at the plant and signed contracts with Rosatom have been told to evacuate by Monday. So this Monday, a week from today, preferably to Crimea, they're saying. Interesting. So Crimea is a significant enough distance away from a Zaporozhye power plant, a couple hundred kilometers, I would think it is. It says on Thursday, Ukraine conducted a nuclear disaster response drill in the vicinity of the power station. So if they're trying to get awareness up about the nuclear power plant, and setting a stage, a narrative for the public, for the international community, maybe for the United States, in the realm of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, That's what they might be doing. They might be getting awareness built up about this. I mean, who knows? It could be either side. And maybe it is Russia that causes trouble. But I don't see that they would be interested in escalating this because I think it would draw in NATO nations. So the advantage I think would go to uh, uh, Ukraine in that case. Russia's UN ambassador Nebenzia replied, saying that he had written to the UN Security Council and the Secretary General Guterres to state, "We do not intend." Now this is the Kremlin. "We do not intend to blow up this NPP nuclear power plant. We have no intention of doing so." So this is a Russia's UN ambassador. The Ukrainian government has actually been making these claims for weeks, with some independent observers such as David Sachs saying this could set the stage for a Gulf of Tonkin event. Again, where U.S. Intelligence agencies, security agencies, maybe deliberately skew intelligence to create an impression of some sort of attack. Why? Well, to draw them in. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in Vietnam. It was basically what pulled them into the war, or what allowed the U.S. military to actively, go on the offensive in Vietnam. It set the stage. It gave them a reason, a raison d'être in French, a reason for being, and it gave them an excuse to go in there, basically. This is Warning 247. We have entered the final stage. The military leadership of Ukraine went to Rivne nuclear power plant. Russia. Russia says they prepared a dirty bomb. So that's interesting. This news is from today. It says Russia media echoing the positions of the Kremlin report that we have entered the final stage. The Ukrainians seem to have built a dirty nuclear bomb. Again, is this something that could pull the United States in, that would sway public opinion enough to say, yeah, okay, we're on board with this. Let's go all out against Russia? This is happening, and I think both sides are using it to their advantage to get their citizens on board. Let's see. On Monday, July 3rd, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Zaluzny, visited Rivne nuclear power plant. According to the sources, he discussed issues of data exchange between military industry and the power industry, as well as possible development of events at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. It says here, let's see. So we spoke about the WC-135. That's the nuke sniffing airplane, which is in that highlighted. I can't highlight this because it's translated. But anyways, the Constant Phoenix, a nuke sniffer, is stationed at the island of Crete, maybe ready to confirm to everybody that nuclear radiation is on the move. And that absolutely, in my opinion, I think that would give NATO all the excuse it was looking for to move in this. It is possible that with their actions, the NATO partners are preparing the world for some kind of unpleasant surprise, for which they will blame Moscow. And so this is what Russian media is saying. Again, based on all the news that I read, Western news and Russian side news, it doesn't make sense to me that Russia would be the instigator of this. Just like, remember when the Nord Stream was blown? Well, what's the first news story that came out? Well, Russia did it to themselves. And they sold that point. That was their narrative, and people believe that. They'd put that on mainstream media, nightly news, and people believed it. People believed that Russia blew up their own pipeline in an effort to, frame Ukraine or whoever. It doesn't make sense, folks. When it so obviously doesn't make any sense, maybe that is the correct answer. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there, folks. This is a big deal. They've been talking this up for a long time, both sides really. And, could this really be the setting of the stage, the normalizing of this conversation, getting the public ready and, accustomed to hearing about this, so that when it happens, there will still be, civility. There won't just be Mad Max. But at the same time, it will cause NATO to say, well, that's it. That's our red line. We have to go in now. And I think at this point, NATO hasn't had really any interest in stopping this war. It's been Russia and China and maybe even Macron himself, but Western nations as a whole haven't seemed to have wanted to, stop this war for any reason. Because I think there's a lot of people making a lot of money, and I also think it's an existential threat to the U.S. greenback. So the U.S. is probably convincing all its partners to, to stay on board with this battle and to beat Russia, etc. So I'm not saying what side is right. And I'm not going to say which side is planning this, but I still, at this point myself, believe that Russia would have no interest in doing this. I don't see that this is advantageous to Russia, unless Russia wants to trigger nuclear war because they know they can win that war, but they don't want to be accused of starting that nuclear war. I don't know, but I guess that's a possibility. But anyways, Gulf of Tonkin incident. Look it up. This is Wikipedia. You can read all about it. Interesting that what has happened in history seems to occur over and over again in multiple different ways. Remember the Twin Towers? Lots of conspiracy about that, isn't there? What would be the reason for that? Was that to allow the U.S. military industrial complex to go into the Middle East, into Afghanistan, etc.? Lots of questions, folks. Lots of questions. Thanks for watching. We'll leave there. We'll see you in the next video.